Oh, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining. I know it's afternoon on the second day, or the afternoon after the night before, so appreciate your attention. I'm really glad to be here and joined by a great group of people. I might just give you a moment just to introduce yourselves, explain what you do, and the companies that you're at, please.
Sure. So my name is Kato. I work as CTO in a retail exchange operating in the Nordics called Firi. Primarily focused on your average, investor, not necessarily like crypto native, crypto specific. Do have those as well, but we have a very focus on just the average investor. Yeah.
Nicola.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicola. As you heard from Goldie, I recently escaped from being chained at Visa and joined Tom Foundation to lead payments. I was attracted by a great opportunity to really look at how we can build an infrastructure for an amazing platform and grow it to like the next billion users.
And hello, my name is Dennis. I've been working in the crypto space for almost 8 years now, for the past 4 years with Binance US, where I'm currently overseeing our listings and research initiatives. Binance in US, as the name suggests, we are a US-centric and licensed platform. Our core products consist of simplified purchases, spot trading, staking, and more recently we launched our own version of Launchpool called Boost. Prior to that, I was working on the Binance Global side where I was primarily focused on, I'm losing my train of thought, but I'll be back, on opening up fiat channels across multiple jurisdictions.
Fantastic. So a good diverse group. You've got a big exposure to large amounts of retail users. What's going to attract the next sort of 100 million users to this market, to crypto in particular? And I might point this one at you, Kato, because from a CTO's perspective, usability or the user experience is super important. So how do you guys think about that when you look at this next sort of phase of growth?
Sure. So I think the crypto industry has a focus often on trading, which if you think about the average investor, they are primarily thinking in terms of global index funds. Obviously, there are people who are trading stocks, etc., but the vast majority that we interact with are, when you mention the word trading, the association they get with this word is speculation, short-term volatility risk. If you use the word investment, which for us may be exactly the same thing behind the scenes, it's just semantics. But the word investment, for them, resonates with a smart investment for the future, long-term, retirement. So the way you phrase this and the way you design your products in terms of usability to retail, I think, I'm biased of course, but I feel a lot of if you want to reach out to the next 100 million users, talking about trading is probably not it. Onboarding users, seeing a dashboard full of features, words like DCA, it's overwhelming. We get it, but for the average person on the street who read about Bitcoin in the news, it is overwhelming for them. So I think we really have to understand the user group. I think the idea of launching the same app, the same product, the same services in all countries, exactly the same, is going to, at least our theory, is going to be tricky because there are variations in these different countries in terms of risk appetite, in terms of knowledge, in terms of like how liberal approach they have to crypto. So at least from my approach, I don't see our approach going live and growing the company to more countries geographically and not tailoring the product in a way that it makes sense for that population. You'll get the crypto native people, no problem, they'll be there. But if you want the next 100 million, the average person on the street, you have to redefine how you communicate, how you talk about this.
I mean, that sounds like it's partially like education related, but also like there's a demographic, like a geography that you have to figure out, like, okay, what does my current demographic look like here? And from what you're saying, that's more around education and framing. if we look at maybe like the US, which has got quite a large portion of the population which already have access to crypto, how does that look from the US standpoint when you think about your your token launches and things like that? Because their demographic might be completely different to what Kate was speaking of.
Of course, and there's different variables which need to be taken into consideration. So there is the product aspect of it, and also on the regulatory side. And the key thing that I want to emphasize, it's not just about attracting the next wave of retail users, but what measures are you taking in order to retain them as well as an industry as a whole. So I do believe that the element of trust serves as a cornerstone here, because there needs to be trust towards the product itself and the branding in addition to the regulatory environment, because new users coming into the space, they want to have a high level of confidence that the products that they're interacting with are both safe and secure, but at the same time, whatever activities they're engaging with are in compliance with the local laws, and whatever provisions there are in fact protecting their best interests. So in the US alone, when we look into regulation, there's the term the Howey test, which we need to take quite seriously when we're conducting an assessment on the listing side of things. And the clarity around regulation at least provides us with some sort of guidance to enable us to see what can we actually offer to our users. So if projects are tweeting to the moon or using rocket ship emojis, of course that's something that we need to take into deep consideration when we're offering such products towards our users.
Got you. So so we've got trust, we've got regulatory side. What about the product? How are you looking at different products in different regions? What's the current sort of status in Norway, product-wise?
Yeah, so product-wise, again, we try to relate as much to the consumer as possible and the way they are used to thinking about these kind of products. So we have a staking product as part of our product portfolio. And when you think about staking, again, it makes sense for us, but for this kind of user, our customers, the closest analogy really would be like a high interest account or passive income, or even like a savings plan. So like we have a DCA feature, but we don't call it DCA, we call it a savings plan. That's what they're used to in traditional finance, right? So it's more how you package this in a way that is relatable to the clientele. And again, for the next 100 million, in my opinion, you have to take that approach.
I'm going to get you for abbreviations because you could DCA there and dollar cost averaging for the audience. You were giving me shit before we started. Don't use abbreviations.
From now on.
Nicola, you're coming in from a long stretch at Visa, but also you're also coming into an organization which basically has what every blockchain protocol wants as a user base. That's what they're after. They're trying to gather that. So you've got this sort of, I'll say there's an indirect association to a very large messenger app. What attracted you to, what opportunities within that has attracted you the most to leave, a prestigious organization of Visa?
Yeah, I would say it's the challenge of looking at the problem where you already have the distribution layer. You have about 1 billion monthly active user, or give or take 50 million. And then you're trying to build the right experiences. When you say 100 million next users, I think about not necessarily onboarding the next 100 million users into Ton, but making sure that they become daily active users or weekly active users. And the question is, how do you get there, right? Like, what are the products and features that you need to build in that they are expecting to have with your platform? And I would say that, for me, it comes down to everything that you guys have said, and it needs to be packaged in a certain way. It needs to be, some of the flows are regulated, but also the product needs to remove the friction points that we have today. So looking at, say, crypto commerce, right? Today, most of the flows, you go in, you have to go to redirect it to your wallet app. You need to sign the transaction. Maybe you need to have a gas fee. So from an average user perspective, you think about your partner or your brother or your friends, you lose them. You lose them at like step one. And then if you're competing against products such as, say, Cash App or Revolut, which are amazing products that are very intuitive, great interfaces, like one-click experiences, you need to be able to reduce the friction that you have today, reduce these steps, and make those experiences similar to what users are doing today. Like at Visa, I think the company invested like billions of dollars over like a 10-year period to drive contactless adoption. You may ask me, like, why would you want to drive contactless adoption? Because it's habit forming. And if you're using your phone or your plastic to tap, you don't actually have to insert it or swipe it and sign it. You don't have to remember the PIN code. It's not like the same as 16 random words, but that's a friction, right? So you eliminate the friction point and you're driving growth in volume.
It's a friction point, but also a risk as well, right? So if certainly in the crypto world you make a mistake, you lose the funds. There's still friction points, and if you make a traditional payment, I was trying to do a foreign exchange to pay something in US dollars. I didn't have a dollar account open. I've got to call someone, then I have to sign a form, and then I got to wait 2 days. Then I can finally trade 2 more days. Then I can send the payment, and I'm nearly 10 days later to do a simple thing. But at least if I make any errors in that process, I'm not going to lose money, which is the case in our market. From a retailer's perspective, someone who's facing an end user, how do you manage that sort of trade-off? You want to make it user friendly, but also you have a security component as well that to give them to build up that trust.
So again, we feel like for a lot of customers and pricing, of course, they care about pricing, they care about fees, but it's not the dominant factor. Customers would rather pay, our experience, customers would rather pay more and feel like they have a solid, secure, and user-friendly product versus paying less and have their funds in jeopardy and being insecure about exactly what kind of actions they're doing in the product, what kind of effects those actions have. So I usually use the analogy with Apple and iPhone. If you're buying an iPhone, price is most likely not the determining factor. It's the feeling you get when you use it. Is it a good feeling or a bad feeling? Most likely good feeling. And then price, of course it matters, but it doesn't become the dominant reason why you choose an iPhone over an Android.
But strangely, it can be the dominant thing that people talk about, right? There's like best pricing, cheapest fees, but actually the fee sensitivity is not necessarily what the end user is actually concerned about.
When we had to tweak our, in the Ukraine crisis, and we had the bear market, as people know, we had to do a fee adjustment. The first we've done for years. Out of, I think we had about 200,000 customers at that point. I would say less than 50 customers complained to support about the vast majority could not care less. That's not, they would rather pay more, feel secure, feel like they have a product they know how to use. And hopefully, in crypto terms, what you're paying in fees, that percentage is hopefully fairly small compared to the estimated profits you're hopefully banking at the end.
Let's switch gears a little bit now into maybe like geos. Let's look a little bit at the US, because Dennis, you guys have just become, we'll say, active again in the United States. There's a lot of companies coming into that region, and we've got a really friendly regulatory environment to do that. What's sort of, Binance, how are you going to come back into that market now and compete with some of these players?
Yeah, so as they say in crypto, 3 months in crypto is the equivalent to 1 year anywhere else. And we've seen this quite extensively. So there have been trends when it came to NFTs, meme coins, DeFi type projects. So from our end, we always try to position ourselves in order to accommodate for those market demands, of course, in a compliant manner. And our strategy right now is towards, on the listing side at least, is towards trying to be the first in the US to list specific assets if they pass our assessment process. And in parallel to that, looking into what are the certain protocols that we can potentially support and develop a deeper sort of partnership with in order to provide those partners with exposure to the US as well.
Can you give some color on the, like the process of assessing new listings? Because I would imagine it's quite hard to validate, public opinion of like, should we go for this one or that one? How do you sort of, ingest whatever data to make that call?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, we use the Howey test when we're considering any asset for a listing. So there are different things we take into consideration, such as how is the asset itself being marketed, what was the exposure on the US side during the token generation event, are there any sort of mechanisms in place which may be regarded as ways for the team itself to prop up the price? And then just certain language which projects may need to look into avoiding, such as referring to token holders as investors, or referring to, let's say, staking rewards as yields. So there's stuff like that which, under the US regulatory framework, is always something which is a sensitive topic and does need to be taken into consideration.
Richard, just quickly, sorry, not to interfere, if you don't mind.
Don't sit on the pen, it will hurt.
So one thing I really wanted to ask all of you, and I told Richard to ask this, and I see that he skipped my questions. You're fired. So I said this yesterday. I think payments and usage of crypto and pretty much everything I think in this life comes from the grassroots, doesn't come because someone wanted it, like a corporate said, oh, now you should use digital assets or whatever. I'll give two examples, right? One is we were talking about this yesterday, the Trump family meme coin thing that happened in January created like 8 million new users, right? And that had to go to, they bought a meme coin, they realized the mistake they've done, it's like a hangover, they had to go back to USDC over Solana, great, that created a pump of USDC, by the way, over Solana. And then another thing that I'm seeing right now, you know, Michael was talking about how payouts and on-ramps are like 54% of what we're seeing in volume. That's a lot of that actually is because there's a lot of new games actually, and I will be very honest. There's a lot of iGaming happening everywhere, and that actually driving. And I will give you like figures. We've seen 1.5 million new wallets being created because of iGaming. Okay, that's a lot of people, right? We're talking about getting to 1 billion. It's 1 million every time. So I guess my question to you guys that I told you to ask, Richard, is what is the grassroots movements amongst users that you guys are seeing in the Nordics, in the TON ecosystem, in Binance US, and can we learn from that as, you know, a leading indicator where people should lean into? Yeah, that's it. I'll come back in a minute, but.
I can start on this one. So actually, if you think about what was happening in the last quarter of 24 in the TON ecosystem, there was a lot of Telegram mini games. I don't know how many people played Hamster Combat in the crowd or Notcoin. There we go. There is a few. So there were these like clicker games where you get in and you kind of have some way to engage the users. And then they afterwards actually became wallet holders. They got the TON wallets and they had the ability to convert these tokens to USDT on TON, and that was a great way to kind of effectively buy new users and onboard them into your ecosystem. So that's definitely one. I agree on the iGaming. iGaming has been going on for years in different forms. You know, there were companies like Stake and Shuffle that I would say are probably still the market leaders. And there are many new ones popping up in different parts of the world. That's definitely the best way to get the new users in.
Wait, Nicola. You were at Visa.
Yes.
Is that happening because they cannot go through the traditional Visa payment rails in a way? Those companies and those users? Not just Visa. Let's put Visa aside because you don't want to comment on Visa. Yeah. MasterCard.
MasterCard. I don't know if Christian is here.
Christian's here? Shit. Okay.
No, so I would say like iGaming companies are some of the most sophisticated payment companies, and every single time there is a new payment method that allows them to onboard a new generation of users, or that allows them to onboard the maybe users who want to use new rails for, let's say, different reasons. Yeah. They always adopt these methods.
So what else are you seeing other than iGaming coming up in the ecosystem that's interesting, that users are actually starting to pile up on?
Users are starting also to engage a lot with different experiences that use some type of agentic commerce to purchase goods and services. There is also like a clear movement to enable users to use their crypto to now say book hotels or created by eSIMs and so on and so forth. So at least in Telegram ecosystem, we are seeing different mini apps building their experience, enabling thousands. I'm tempted to say 5,000, but hopefully this is not going to be recorded.
No, it's not right. Every time I go on stage, they stop the recording.
Broadcast live.
Broadcast live. I know that there was, let's say, 4.5, 5,000 in May.
Oh, hundreds of millions in volume for the first one. That's amazing.
And that volume is still split across, crypto and fiat rails, but you're starting to see like real traction.
Yeah.
And we hope to onboard many more different apps and merchants to kind of create their experiences natively in our ecosystem.
Is it different in the Nordics because people are more civilized?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Now, so it's, and again, our exchange may be a bit unique in this case, but now with travel rule, if someone does a deposit to us and they have to declare what the origin of the funds are, if they select gaming is the origin, the source, we send it back.
Yeah.
Because of AML reasons.
You don't like that.
We don't touch it.
So what do you see as trending by actual users moving actual volume?
Moving actual funds on chain?
Yeah, for a specific utility that's not only speculation.
Yeah, DeFi is a lot. Lending protocols is one of the things that we've been talking about. Again, in terms of packaging this for retail, there's a lot of DeFi products that is going to be, for the majority of our clientele, way too advanced for them to use. So again, packaging something like the very nice Uniswap support in Fireblocks.
Yeah.
Packaging this in a good, user-friendly way in our app is definitely something that we're fairly confident it's going to be a big thing. But the whole crypto and blockchain and how much a user will actually see and feel and experience in terms of the raw on-chain activity, my hypothesis is not going to be as much as we think it is. I think it is up to us, like me, I'm a bit of an idealist, crypto idealist. I think stuff like self-custody is really important, to have financial mobility, to have ownership over your own funds. And from personal point of view, it's kind of up to exchanges and companies like ours to sort of facilitate this in a very safe and secure manner for the customers who won't necessarily be thinking about what number of confirmations mean.
No, of course, I agree. I think that's the basic. Crypto will go mainstream. Well, no one knows it's crypto.
Yeah.
But is it? I agree with you. Is it different for you guys, Dennis, in Binance US? Are their users doing, I guess, as much yield as other places? Because obviously in the US they have Coinbase that's easy to get yield on, and maybe that's more familiar for them.
It's more of an advantage, perhaps, as well. If you're having to return money in Europe because of certain regs, you might have an advantage in that jurisdiction as well.
That is true, but we are seeing a push in the DeFi narrative. We're also seeing a lot of interest in meme coins as well, which may not have been the case 5 years ago, since no one was really touching meme coins back in the day. But we're also seeing a big push when it comes to stablecoins as well. So at least in the US, a lot of policymakers are advocating towards more stablecoin-friendly policies, which of course is a good thing. And it does enable the compliant stablecoins to be more included within the broader financial ecosystem. So we are seeing more of a play there as well, which is good to see.
Is it different for users in the US than users in Binance Global? Are they more interested in one thing than others in Global?
I would say it really depends on clarity. So like the meme coin example I gave you, there is clarity around meme coins the same way there is around staking right now in the US as well, which is why we're seeing more interest there. And just to go back to my point about the element of trust, given that there is more clarity in the space around there, that is why we're seeing more users engage in, let's say, staking type activities or feeling comfortable purchasing their favorite meme coin.
Is there a risk on in the US, because you got more traditional institutions, you've got banks like you've got JP Morgan, they switch on crypto for their retail users. It'll be about 60 million people that'll get access. How do you guys sort of look at that when you're sort of approaching this market? Because you're going to grow a pie, but if they come into the game, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, so just where we are right now as an industry as a whole, I do think it's a good sign, because if we have more traditional players coming into the space, it further legitimizes crypto, the industry as a whole. I am hoping that with more players coming into the space, it will lead to more crypto-friendly banking solutions as well, which unfortunately was a pain point back in my day, given the fact that there was only a few set of EMIs or banks which you could target.
I would say, like, historically, if you look at it, every single time you have a new set of adopters who allow retail users or business users to effectively ingest crypto, the adoption goes through the roof. So initially, it was just a few exchanges, and it was, you put your paper up and say your name, and that was your KYC. And then when, like, Revolut and other eToro, etc., started offering crypto services, they had the next wave of adoption. And now if you start having banking providers, like I say BBVA in Spain, and others offering maybe just Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe Solana to their users, you're going to see the next wave of adoption. So it's the same in the kind of B2B space. A few years ago, there were very few companies who were willing to use, say, stablecoin sandwich, say it 3 times. But nowadays, you have, Goldie, as you said, like, you have everybody and their mother talking about it, and all these banks are now forming stablecoin and digital assets teams to explore this because there is a regulatory clarity. So I think regulatory clarity brings these kind of use cases to focus, because once you have regulatory clarity, you can invest long-term, and once you can invest long-term, traditional players also pile into the space and make it more accessible and bigger for everybody.
Can I give you a hard time?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So, Nicola, you said regulatory clarity. I agree that's a huge unlocking. But there's regulatory clarity, and then there's, let's call that track record and reputation. And obviously, you have an amazing track record and reputation, even though being Serbian. But I think, the question is, when you go and you talk to now, as Nicola, as the serious dude that you are, you go to talk to these huge financial institutions, and you tell them, I'm from TON, which is the ecosystem of Telegram. Do you get a face that's like, oh, Telegram, I don't know. Like, because the governments in the West, let's call that, have created an image like Telegram is evil. Now, Telegram, if you don't know that, is the largest messaging app in the world, and it's freaking amazing. Right? And the ecosystem is amazing. How do you fight that? And do you get those faces?
Depends. But to be fair, I don't think that the traditional big banks are ready to engage directly with chains yet.
Yeah.
They would do it through Fireblocks or somebody else who would help them set up the infrastructure. I think for chains to engage directly with TradFi players, that's probably going to be the third wave of adoption that Michael was talking about.
Yeah.
I think in this second wave, you're going to have a lot more work with the infrastructure providers. And to answer your question, depending who you speak with, having the distribution channel is almost like a powerful drug, attracting them to kind of investigate this ecosystem, because you have the distribution, so you will figure out the technology which will give you access to this distribution, especially as the Telegram user base is primarily in the frontier and emerging markets where a lot of the players want to get access to.
It's almost amazing that payment companies haven't realized that if they triple down on Tone ecosystem, Telegram, apps, whatever, they could actually reach everyone they want because all their users are already there. They're trying to do it through different ways. Dennis, is that the same to you guys? Do you get weird faces when obviously you look like, you look better than I do.
I tried. This is probably the first time I wore a suit.
I'm sure people don't give you a weird face, but how do they react when you say Binance right now?
When it comes to, let's say, having discussions with more traditional players in the space, regardless of what you say, whatever processes you have in place, whatever compliance tools you're utilizing, they're always going to give you a strange face, given crypto is still regarded as that thing, right? And when it comes to even card payments, as an example, crypto is still treated as a high-risk industry under MCC code 6051. So it doesn't matter what sort of tools you have in place, how compliant you are, whatever licensing you have, as long as you're offering a crypto-type service, you're going to be treated as a high-risk merchant. So unfortunately, that is the case today. We're hoping that does change. And yes, slowly but surely, we'll do it in the right way where we'll show that we're not the Wild West, but we're here and we want to be compliant.
Kato, you guys are I think, the largest exchange in your region. And is there anything in you that's a bit afraid that Coinbase will start, gripping more of your Binance? Binance is trying. Coinbase is trying as well. I believe in localization of these type of markets. I think this is why, obviously, you guys have a lot of users that are coming into you. But what's your view? Should you work with them, or should you just win the continent?
Yeah, they are coming, and OKX, etc., have started making their entrance already in the Nordic market. My impression is that these are not companies that are tailoring their products to the market. If you're in the UK or in Sweden and you open I'm just random example, OKX app, you're likely going to see the same set of features, which does not resonate necessarily with that kind of crowd. So having a localized approach, in my opinion, is probably going to be better. There is a research firm out of Sweden called K33, who does research on the Nordic crypto adoption. So in there, and we are not affiliated with them in any way. So compared to Binance and Coinbase, we have 5 times the amount of Nordic users than is present on Coinbase and Binance. And I suspect it's mostly going to be crypto native people who go there, who are comfortable sending their passport. No one sends a passport to us. In the Nordics, we have a digital national identification method. There's no passport pictures being sent around.
Yeah.
The whole KYC process is not fully automated, but fairly automated.
Do you believe in convergence to happen in this space? Coinbase bought Deribit, right? Will they buy a localized exchange, or they bought Deribit maybe because they were more on the, obviously, future side, option side?
They could. I don't see the business case for it. Our competitors in the Nordic area, the volume they do, in a month, we do in a day. So it's quite a substantial difference. Between us. So I don't necessarily see. They're definitely going to be getting some customers like the crypto native crowd who wants more advanced features. They will probably go with them, but that is not the majority of our customers. 90% are your mom and dad, your colleague, your friends, who they read about Bitcoin in the news, they want some exposure. They think of this more in terms of, or they associate this more in terms of investment than speculation, right? So they are coming for sure, but it's not something that I lose sleep over personally.
Okay.
And
Time
will tell.
No, I mean,
even in Switzerland, we have these very local markets. Why has Coinbase never got into Switzerland? But no, you have these local players that are you've got Bitcoin Swiss, you have Signum, you have Swiss Quotes. That tends to the Swiss people sort of gravitate to a local provider. And we also have, I think this probably quite resonates well in the Nordics. Do you want to do Q&A, Goldie? You look like you really want to do Q&A.
Yeah, I do. And we have, a crypto veteran here, an OG, a person that invested in more companies than the number of transactions we have today on Fireblocks. Elbros, how you doing? Please.
Goldie, how are you?
Great. Maybe present yourself a bit. Say a bit about your track record, because you are an OG. Honored to have you here.
I don't know if I'm still yet, but yeah. So, hi everybody. Elbrus, XBit Panda, PaySafe. So learning, trading, and payments at one go. And I have a great teacher, so thanks, Goldie. I think I'm listening to the panel interested, obviously, but one question to Dennis, I think, how transparent is Binance's listing process in the US these days? Because obviously, many projects want to get listed, and they fail to contact the right team and the process, so that's one question. And then I think to Nicola, when you look at the comparison between iGaming and crypto, from back in the Visa days, what has changed for Visa and other card processors? So those are two questions I have.
Well, it doesn't work for Visa anymore. He cannot.
I know, but I think
maybe he can comment on MasterCard.
Yeah, he can comment. He's not representing Visa, I know, but I think to your point, crypto is it finds high friction angles, adult gaming, gambling, etc. And I think just like in the past when the card businesses were growing in different verticals, is following the same path for growth. So I just wanted to get, because he knows it quite well, so maybe he can comment.
Thank you, Elbros. And next one's going to be Daniel Lee, the head of Web3 for Banking Circle. So you should prepare, Daniel. Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So on the US side, transparency is key. We always want to ensure that any project that is reaching out to us has direct access to our team so that we can provide them with an overview of how the listings process looks. So it's a little bit different setup compared to the global Binance. So generally how it starts is you go through the regular formalities where it comes to signing an NDA, filling out the questionnaire, and then your team providing, or whoever's applying, providing supplementary documentation, whether it's in the form of legal opinions or security audits. We consolidate all of that. We conduct our due diligence process. If that passes, we send it out to our outside counsel for them to perform an independent and unbiased review, where they're also applying the Howey test. And if that receives a passing score, then that gets sent to our listings committee, and they will ultimately decide if the asset fulfills our listings criteria. So that's typically how the process works in a nutshell, and we're always happy to speak with projects in varying stages, because if we are able to speak with them early on, they can understand what are the key things we look into on the US side when we're assessing an asset for a potential listing.
Nicola, do you want to do?
Yeah.
You want to do some reactions on the representing MasterCard?
Yes, so I would say the process of the payment scheme is always behind in terms of what the market is kind of putting to bear. So you would have a new flow emerge, and then you would have the kind of rules and compliance team to the schemes looking at how best to understand these transactions and how to help them grow. So if you think about the traditional on-ramp from crypto into a gambling website, at some point that was 6051. But then over time, as this became an actual use case, there is now like a third-party agent solution where you effectively register as a crypto on-ramp provider, and then if you're doing, say, a gambling flow, 7995, you do a gambling flow with a special indicator 7 for crypto. So there are ways to position this with your acquirer processors or principal acquiring members and advocate for a specific flow that they then do on your behalf, as in on the merchant's behalf, to the scheme.
All right, thank you. And Daniel Lee is the head of Web3 for Banking Circle, one of the banks that have issued their own currency a while back. And I would say they're pushing the envelope in Europe, also in APAC. Daniel, what's the question I'm imposing on you to the panel?
What do you want me to ask? You want me to ask something very difficult?
No, I actually want to know, did Nicola get a huge raise from Visa to TON? And did he also get tokens, and how does it work? Because I'm trying to calculate my steps. I'm almost at the end of my vesting. No, ask whatever you want, Daniel.
Well, where do you buy those shoes?
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things I would like to know about, is to Binance US, was the change in the crypto landscape currently, right? I know you still operate very separately from Binance.com, and you operate as a separate entity in the US. But do you see that there's going to be a lot more integration, order book sharing with Binance.com, a lot more cross-selling of the products from the main exchange? Or you think that, at least for the foreseeable future, Binance.us is going to operate separately?
Yeah, so we've always been an independently operated platform, and it will continue that way. So we have our own CEO, our own board. We hold our own licenses within the US as well, so I don't anticipate that changing. The global side, they're focusing on everything apart from the US, and that is probably how it will stay for the foreseeable future.
Richard, I think we don't have any more time, but
no,
we can ask your last question if you want.
I'm all good. No, I think we can wrap up. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time, and the audience, and for your questions as well.
Thank you. Amazing panelists. Thank you.